The United States is doubling down on its assertion that Russia is committing war crimes in Ukraine after US President Joe Biden called Russian President Vladimir Putin a war criminal. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken echoed a similar sentiment.
Among other things, the intentional targeting of civilians would constitute a war crime. You heard President Biden speak to this yesterday. You heard what I said a few minutes ago. So we are documenting. We welcome the efforts of various groups, institutions, organizations that focus on this to bring all of the evidence together, to continue to document things, and then for there to be accountability, one way or the other.
WION correspondent Ross Cullen is joining us live for more on this story. Ross, good to see you and welcome to this broadcast. The International Criminal Court has opened an investigation into war crimes in Ukraine. However, it's far from certain that anyone will be brought to justice under international laws. What does this mean for Ukraine? And if the ICC does issue a warrant, what are the prospects of trying Russian officials?
Hi, Eric. That's exactly what we have been hearing from the United States, from France, this pressure on Russia over allegations of committing war crimes inside Ukraine. We saw a few days ago the targeting of a maternity hospital in Ukraine. That was something that Russia said Ukraine staged with actors using bloody makeup. The West says it was a war crime. There was also the targeting of residential areas, the deliberate targeting of civilians by Russia that the West, France, the United States, the United Kingdom says constitutes the actions of war crimes. We heard the tough talk from President Biden, really strong, a statement saying that Vladimir Putin is, in his eyes, a murderous dictator, a pure thug and a war criminal. We haven't had such strong language from Emmanuel Macron here in France because he has been trying, Eric, to keep this telephone communication line going between Paris and Moscow, trying to show that Vladimir Putin does have an option to talk always. He is free to try to continue this dialogue on the phone, to try to find a peaceful resolution with the Kremlin. So Emmanuel Macron is keeping that phone line open. He used it most recently yesterday to speak to Volodymyr Zelensky, always maintaining close contact with the Ukrainian president to show France's and the wider European Union's support for Ukraine. France has also launched an anti-terror investigation into the killing of the Fox News journalist Pierre Zakrzewski. He had French and Irish journalism. He had French and Irish nationality, and France is looking into the killing of the journalist a few days ago, saying that the deliberate targeting of somebody who is protected by international law, the deliberate targeting of a civilian not engaged in hostilities could amount to a war crime. So there is an anti-terror investigation looking specifically into the targeting of journalists in Ukraine, targeting by Russia of journalists in Ukraine.
Ross, going back to my question, if the ICC does issue a warrant, what are the prospects of trying Russian officials and now President Vladimir Putin? Are there any prospects to do that?
At the moment, it will be very hard to see how you would be bringing Russian generals, Russian military officials, maybe even the Russian president willingly to the ICC to face a trial for war crimes, crimes against humanity. That is something that could well happen in the future, if there is a resolution to the conflict, if there is a determination by the West to try to pursue Russian military officials. But at the moment, that seems very unlikely. The West wants to make sure that it does still have a useful path of dialogue with the Kremlin, so wants to keep that dialogue open. Emmanuel Macron hasn't ruled out a possible future meeting with Vladimir Putin, again, face-to-face, if there is a possibility to try to resolve the conflict. He hasn't ruled out going to Kiev, but he does say that might not be as useful at the moment. We did see the Polish Prime Minister, Slovenian Prime Minister, the Czech Prime Minister, all going to Kiev in recent days for a personal face-to-face visit. Emmanuel Macron hasn't ruled that out, but it does seem unlikely at the moment that we would see any sudden movement within the overall auspices of the International Criminal Court to try to bring Russian officials to justice. That's something that there will be a lot of pushback from Moscow. It says it's carrying out its special military operation inside Ukraine to stop the militarization of Ukraine, to stop the Nazification of Ukraine. So among the Kremlin, there is this determination that what they are doing inside Ukraine, this invasion of Ukraine, it has an end, has a specific aim to try to demilitarize Ukraine. So that's what they would feel inside Moscow. So at the moment, I don't think there is any prospect of Vladimir Putin appearing before the ICC.
Finally, Ross, what role could the United States play in seeking accountability in this conflict?
We heard Antony Blinken, Eric, in the introduction, the top foreign affairs official in the United States, echoing the overall sentiment, if not perhaps the specific words of his boss in the White House, saying that there are war crimes being carried out in Ukraine, accusing Russia of carrying out those war crimes in Ukraine. That's something that he says there will be accountability and consequences. Overall, the possible end to that could be an appearance in the criminal court by Russian officials. That's something that Antony Blinken will want to be able to keep on the table, to try to pursue those they hold accountable for carrying out those war crimes inside Ukraine, the targeting of hospitals, the targeting of civilian areas, residential apartment blocks and schools and hospitals. But overall, when it comes to the accountability, we do see the pressure from sanctions. We do see the pressure in trying to show Ukraine support, trying to support Ukraine diplomatically, politically and also militarily. And we do see the pressure trying to be brought to bear by European Union officials in their recent and regular discussions, both with Volodymyr Zelensky to show support and with Vladimir Putin to show resolve, but also to try to show there is an open door for the Russian president to use if he does want to seek a peaceful resolution to the conflict. So in terms of accountability and consequences, there could well be international criminal proceedings brought to bear in the future on Russian officials. But for the time being, the West, the US, the UK, France and the EU will be trying to continue that pressure, that accountability through sanctions and diplomatic pressure.
Live from Paris, France, Ross Cullen, thank you very much for your insights. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.